Okay, so here's how UK politics is kind of like Avengers. Thanos won. He snapped away our EU citizenship, he snapped away the top A-level grades from working class kids, and he snapped away the lives of 30,000 people who would have been alive if the UK had the death rate of Germany, who locked down on time. Now obviously not everything we've lost can be restored, but there is one way and one way alone to get to a better future. The majority has voted for parties that are much more left-wing than the Tories in every election since 2017, but the Tories have stayed in power because our voting system is shit. For example, under our system of first past the post, if in your town the Tories got 40% of the vote, Labour got 30% and the Greens got 30%, you'd have a Tory MP. And if that happened in every single constituency, then every single MP would be Tory despite 60% voting for progressive parties. That's how we ended up with 56% of MPs being Tories, even though they only got 44% of the vote. Not to mention the fact that the majority voted for parties that would have had a second referendum instead of leaving the EU. Simply put, we don't have a progressive government because even though the majority of our country votes progressive, that progressive vote is split between many parties, whereas the Tories have a monopoly of the right wing. And Labour, the main opposition party, just suffered its worst election defeat since 1935. So in order to unite the progressive vote, Labour needs to commit to changing our voting system to proportional representation within 12 months of taking office. Because that way, Greens, Dems and Plaid can know that they can vote for Labour as a way of making their votes actually count at the following election. Because if all of those who oppose Eaton Thanos finally assemble, then our democracy will finally be fair and our progressive voting country will finally get a progressive parliament. Two stumbling blocks though, infighting in Labour and Scotland. So let me start by saying, I don't give a fuck about the war between Blairism and Corbynism. I don't give a fuck about Keir Starmer. I would have preferred for Labour to choose somebody who couldn't be identified as being on one side or the other. The main reason I don't want Labour looking at changing leader again is because it would make the party look like even more of a shit show than it has done in recent years. And given everything the Tories have done, that's quite the fucking achievement. So back to the analogy. Corbyn is basically Gamora. Thanos crushed him on his way to the snap. And right now, Corbyn supporters, they're Star-Lord.
Tell me you didn't do it!
In their desperate need to honour their fallen comrade, they risk just helping Thanos more. I know that Corbyn is a beloved figure within your movement, but clearly it isn't playing out that way in public. Now you can blame the media, you can blame whatever, but the fact is, he is not a popular man. Ask yourself, do you think the stink of anti-Semitism around Corbyn is going to just go away? No? Then even from the perspective of what you would call true socialism, he's bad for your movement. With both Brexit and Boris, literally millions of lives and jobs are on the line, which is why since I started engaging in politics, I've always believed that the cause has to come first before any individual person. And I've worked with people who felt the same way. I quit my dream job to try to deal with Brexit. They left their university degrees because we knew what was at stake. So unless you're telling me that Jeremy Corbyn is more important than protecting millions of working class people from the disaster capitalists currently running the show, we need a little less Peter Quill and a little more Tony Stark. Okay, so Scotland. Obviously pretty crucial because let's face it, Labour's not doing so well up there. And when we do get that anti-Tory majority, you could argue that it's not in the SNP's interest to vote for things like proportional representation because that would help fix the UK, and a fixed UK might be something that Scotland doesn't want to leave. Which is why Labour needs to commit to fulfilling every single promise that was made to the Scottish people in 2014. A, that means that when Scotland does have another vote on the union, it will be on a better union. B, proportional representation will effectively lock the Tories out of power so they won't be able to undo that. C, I'd probably throw in a written constitution while you're at it just to really set that in stone, but that one's negotiable. And the fact is, it's also in Scotland's interest to help fix the UK before they leave, because as a country that plans to rejoin the EU, sharing a land border with a country that's also in the EU is a lot better for Scotland than sharing it with a deregulated hellscape that the Tories plan to turn us into, especially in terms of trade. Now, as for how that fits into the Avengers analogy, I'm kind of stuck as to which one to go with. For example, Tony Stark wants to live his own life separate from the rest of us, but rejoins the fight to help make life easier for his neighbours. But he also kind of dies in the process, so maybe that's not the best advert to get Scotland on board. Then there's Thor, who already kind of has a William Wallace-y vibe, and he also wants to live apart from the rest of us. And just like it's in Scotland's interest to fix the UK first, Thor also needed an incentive, which in his case was beer. But then the analogy starts to get a little racist towards Glaswegians. So I think I'm going to have to go with Captain Marvel on this one, because she's straight up just like, look, there are other worlds out there. You guys aren't the center of the universe, though you like to think you are. You should really be able to handle your own mess, which is pretty much the vibe that I get from a lot of pro-indies when I have this conversation. And then once she'd saved the universe, it was left pretty much up in the air as to whether or not she was going to keep chilling with the Avengers or head off on her own path. So to sum up, you all need to work together or Thanos will win. You need to find yourself a new Gamora or Thanos will win. And even if you don't feel it's your fight now, it is. We love you, we need you, or else Thanos will win. Especially given all the suffering that people are going through now and the severe hardship ahead. There is too much at stake to let personality politics or party politics get in the way. So are you willing to put the cause first?
Whatever it takes.